super, super hard. You can tell he loves the game of football. But physically, he doesn't have the speed, he doesn't have the strength, and he doesn't have the technique. So you're kind of pigeonholed, and mentally you can tell he has not played the safety position, which is safety along with linebackers are the two positions on your defense that really need to read a lot. They need to make a lot of pre-snap reads and adjust accordingly. So mentally, he's nowhere near there either. But for some insane reason, our profoundly inexplicable, stupid, idiotic coaching staff, that's right, I'm not just singling out one person, our entire coaching staff could not have been more idiotic this week. And that was evident, like I said, from play one, when somebody who's got the power decided that Sendejo was going to be our other starting safety. Now, again, don't get me wrong, Blanton stinks too. But Blanton's got athleticism and physical qualities that Sendejo doesn't. Also, Blanton has much more general awareness and knowledge and experience of playing the position. So, regardless of how unimpressed you've been with Robert Blanton throughout the preseason, he was still by far, out of those two guys, the one that gave you the best chance to be competitive, if you're trying to win the game, which it's debatable that the Vikings were even trying to win the game. They were play calling like it was still freaking preseason, and we're just, these are the plays we want to run to try and get them to work and see what we've got with these pieces, and it was like there was not once in the entire 60 minutes of that painfully god-awful, unbearable embarrassment of a football game did we counter anything that the 49ers were doing. Nothing. Not once did the Vikings offensive coaching staff or defensive coaching staff say, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what they're doing, we're struggling, they're not, let's try doing this instead. Not once in the entire game did that happen, with the exception of Sendejo's butt finding the bench where it belongs in the second half, and Robert Blanton's butt getting off of the bench and getting out in that starting defensive secondary. And, let's see. I guess the one other, now that I think about it, there is one other player on the defensive side of the ball, along with Harrison Smith, who I thought played fairly well, to no surprise as well, and that would be Xavier Rhodes. This guy looks to me that he can be, will, or is a Pro Bowl caliber shutdown number one cornerback in the NFL. He can line across from the other team's number ones and shut them down. He can run with them, he can jump with them. But that's it. Those are the only two people on the defensive side of the ball that had good games at all. Harrison Smith, Xavier Rhodes. That's it. Maybe you could say Anthony Barr had a good game. I wouldn't. I'm not saying he had a terrible game, but he did not have a good game. All these other people that I didn't mention, like I said, Harrison Smith, Xavier Rhodes, the only two defensive players that had a good game. Nobody else did. Nobody else did. Many other people had an okay game, but nobody else had an actual good game where, like, you're grading out good. You're fulfilling your responsibility on this play from your position satisfactorily. That's all I'm looking for. And everyone on the defense, to my eyes, with the exception of Harrison Smith and Xavier Rhodes, failed to do that on more than half of the plays that they saw. Again, though, that's not to say that they didn't still, make some plays here and there. Anthony Barr made some plays here and there. Did anybody else make any plays? I don't know if a D lineman made a play all freaking game. That was atrocious. But that's my take on the defensive side of the ball. And you can't expect the defense to continue to stop the other team from scoring, moving the ball, when the time of possession, when your offense isn't getting any first downs. Your offense is constantly either getting 3 and outs or turning the ball over, or maybe a 1 first down and then out. But our offense could not move the ball down the field and establish a drive at really any point in the game. Not once. And when your offense does that, your defense will almost always eventually break. Okay? And especially a Zimmer defense. A Zimmer defense is designed to bend anyway, just not break. But our offense put it in a situation where it was inevitable. It had to break. These guys are human. They literally can't be out there on the field running around for 80% of the game. The time of possession at frickin', I don't have the stats on hand. Next week I'll try to have more actual game stats at my disposal. But approximately, what I remember from when I looked at it, like at one point in time, I want to say the time of possession was like 31 minutes to 8 minutes. Somewhere in there. Again, don't quote that. And that's just at one point in time in the game. But that's insane. You've got the other team has the ball 3 times longer than you do. You can't win that way. Your defense can't. It's just, you're setting them up for failure. And that's the thing in football. It's the ultimate team game. That's why a lot of times, like, you see a defense struggle, especially against the run, and get out physicaled in the third and especially fourth quarter, the way the Vikings did this week. That's almost always not on the defense. It has nothing to do with the defense not being good, or not being in shape, or not being ready, or having a bad scheme, or anything like that. They're human beings, and they are fatigued. Because every human being in that situation would be fatigued. And also, let's not forget the fact that they still, when the game was all said and done, when the scoreboard hit triple zeros, the San Francisco Niners had a grand total of 20 points to their name. Now, in the NFL, in my opinion, when you hold a team to 20 points for the entire game, you should win at least, bare minimum, no less than 2/3 of those games. That's right. I mean, seriously, look at a scoreboard sometime and just go, well, geez, if they'd, look at how many teams score over 20 points. And then notice how many times a team scores 20 or less and walk out with a win. Okay? Just look at those two things sometimes. So, ultimately, the Vikings defense did not in any way lose the game for us, even though it was the most rushing yards on a Zimmer defense since 2009, and they had over 100 yards after contact, and they had over 100 yards rushing. Just like everything, like every rushing statistic was pretty much maxed out for the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, they do have a decent offensive line, but which lost its best player, by the way, and didn't replace him. And they've got basically a first-year starter at running back who's, totally, he's legit. Carlos Hyde, running back for the Niners, is legit. But don't expect him to run for that many yards every week. He's going to have a lot of 13 carry for 50-yard weeks. A lot. And 0 touchdowns. Okay? But he will have, probably at least another 1 or 2 or 3 weeks like this where he's over the 100 yards and multiple touchdowns. So no disrespect to either the Niners offensive line or Niners running back Carlos Hyde. They did do everything that they were asked to do. And they did it in impressive fashion, but it really didn't kick in until the second half when our defense was just completely worn down from being on the field the entire freaking game. Why were they on the field the entire freaking game? Because our offense is worthless, okay? Norv Turner, what are you doing? You don't know how to... Fire Norv Turner, okay? I'm saying right now. Overreaction, week 1, NFL, fire Norv Turner. Get him out of here. This guy doesn't have a clue how to use any of the... he doesn't have a clue how to use the pieces on this offense. Not a clue. And not only that, he doesn't have a basic understanding of just, like I said, football 101 game management. Case in point. Let's go back to that big blocked kick to, start towards the beginning of the game in the first quarter there that I mentioned earlier, where the 49ers, first possession, they get into field goal range, they kick the field goal, however, we block it, Sherrills picks it up, no one's in front of him, he's running to the end zone, and someone just busted their butt, took an amazing angle. I mean, that's an angle in pursuit drill. If you're a junior high or high school football coach and you want to display and show what angle in pursuit is, just get the zoomed out highlight of that blocked kick from last night's game. The guy who pushed Sherrills out of bounds to save that touchdown. He's arguably the MVP for that team, because I think if we take that to the house, that's it. Like I said, we set the tone, routes on, it's over. But we didn't. And not only that, but he pushed him out around the 25-30 yard line, where it's a good, 40 to 50 yard field goal. Now, a lot of times, as long as you're inside 50, generally speaking in the NFL, that's a field goal you can feel fairly confident about. But it's very missable. And again, especially too, playing in San Francisco, you're playing outdoors. And anytime you're outdoors, your gimme kick range is different. It changes as opposed to playing indoors in a dome or something like that. But so, knowing this about your kicker, okay, boom, we got the ball, we got this huge turnover, all the momentum in the world, but we haven't scored yet from it, and we're just barely inside field goal range. Like, this is, we're just barely inside a 50-yard field goal. What is Norv Turner's brilliant idea? Play action pass, pass, pass. Not once. Oh, and and of course, if you can't tell, we didn't get the first down off of any of those three passes or all of those three pass plays called put together. So we settle for the field goal. We walk our field goal kicker out there, who was 5 of 11 in the preseason, made less than half of his field goals. He attempted over 10 field goals in the preseason. He made less than half of them. Okay? And so they walk him out there for the 45-yarder, somewhere in there, whatever it was. And of course he missed it, because that's what he's been doing. Knowing that your kicker's majorly struggling, first possession of the game, on the road, off a turnover, AP back, angry, ready, teams, ready to focus on him and make shutting him down the number one priority for them defensively. What do? Pass, pass, pass. Now, to me, it appeared, and I would love to find this out. This is what I would ask Coach Zimmer or Coach Turner, were I able to ask them any questions this week. But I would ask them, a lot of games, teams will script their first 5, 10, 15 plays from the line of scrimmage for offense. Very common, very common. Is that what was done this week? Because to me, when I was watching those 3 plays, that first 3 and out from inside their 30-yard line, you go 3 and out with not one freaking handoff. Are you kidding me? But it looked and felt to me like this was just the scripted first, couple plays that we had. Like it was planned where, okay, our first possession, 1st and 10 from the 20-yard line, the first down play we ran, that was set up for that situation. And then, 2nd and 3rd, like I said. That's just so stupid. Again, I hope they didn't do that, but I'm willing to bet that they did. And if they did, I'm willing to bet that they wouldn't own it and admit to it. But you have to, as a coach, in any football, but especially in the